Hello again, class. So this is going to be for September 14th, lesson 9. We're going to be talking about the area of a triangle, which we've already been talking about. We're going to talk even more about the formula for today. So the first thing that we're going to do is I want to show you guys our new playlist. Now, we know how to get to the playlist. We go here to announcements and then weekly playlist. And I'm going to make the screen a little bit bigger. So here you can see I've added a few more things to the playlist because we're going to start using this more and more as a class, okay? So here you've got your Zoom link, you've got the link to the YouTube channel, we've got our links to your school counselors, the military family life counselor, my contact information if you need it, a link to the digital notebook, which we'll use in a minute, the times where you can come for extra help, the lunch form, and anything else. This is also, if you are in my homeroom class, this is where you're going to find anything that you need to do for that day or that week. The listing of this week's homework packet, the Google Drive that you will need to upload things to for extra work, and then of course the actual playlist for each particular day in the week. Okay, and you're going to see the previous week's playlist below it, but we're only worried about what we're focused on that day. Okay, so like I said, anytime we're talking about something, with first place to good, a good place to go to is our digital notebook. So again, you can get to that here. And we are still in Unit 1, so I'm going to select Unit 1. And just to review a few of our terms that we have here. We have our polygon, which is a two-dimensional figure composed of a sequence of straight line segments connected end to end, with the last one connecting back to the first. All that really means is that it's a closed shape, so that you don't just have it starting and stopping. It is a completely enclosed shape. And then we're going to get into polyhedra later on in the week. But today we are talking about triangles. So one of the big things that I want to talk about is our formula. So we see that down here. Again, this is obvious because it says formulas right here on the side. So, and as we've talked about before, here is our formula for the area of a triangle. Area equals base times height divided by 2. Okay? It's written like a fraction because that is the way we divide. So once again, anytime you have a base and a height, whether that be a triangle or a parallelogram, those two sides must be perpendicular to each other. They must form a 90-degree or a right angle. Okay? Anytime you want to try and use a base and a height, they have to be perpendicular to each other. Okay? All right, so we are going to go back and I'm going to give you a quick example of stuff we're going to be talking about today. Okay, so when we see something like this on the grid, it's a lot easier to apply the formula. So once again, if we are using a formula, that is going to be the first thing we do. So I'm going to go ahead and write that over here. Area equals base times height divided by 2. All right, so now we see which side we're going to use for our base. Now, when I think base, I think bottom, so that makes easiest. I'm going to use this as my base. And since it's on a grid, all I've got to do is count. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So that means that my base has a value of 5. Now I'm going to choose my height, which once again, our height has to be perpendicular to the base. So I'm going to use my height right here. Since I'm on a grid, I can just count 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the other half of my formula. So 5 times 4 divided by 2. 5 times 4 is 20 divided by 2, which will give me 10 units squared. So that is my final answer for that particular triangle. Now again, I know that this one doesn't show a right angle in here, but it is understood because you can see it on the grid. Okay, since it's on the grid, you see that. So there is a right angle between those two, between your base and your height. Okay, now we're going to go to this shape. Sometimes this type of a triangle, this obtuse triangle, can sometimes be a little confusing, so we're going to talk about this one as well. So on the bottom, I'm going to use this as my base. I'm going to start off by writing my formula again. Area equals base times height divided by 2. I'm going to count my base, the value for my base, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So now I've got the value of my base. So I'm going to go ahead and put that into my formula. 7 times, I don't know my height yet, so I'm going to figure that out next. So now this gets a little fun because my height is going to be the distance from my base to the very top of the triangle, okay? And so I've got my base down there, but I want to go from the very bottom of my triangle all the way up to the top. That is its height. How high does it go? How tall is the triangle? So I can't go in the middle because that doesn't give me to the top of the triangle, so I'm going to have to go on the side. So I'm going to come over here and make my imaginary line. And because, like I said, we see this on the grid, we already know that this is a right angle, okay? So I can see that from the bottom of the triangle to the top of the triangle, that is where I'm going to find my height. So the value of that is 1, 2, and 3, okay? So 7 times 3 is 21 divided by 2. And I know you guys can do that math, so I'm not going to show you the long division. I'm just going to go ahead and do that quickly. So that is going to be 10.5 equals 10.5 units squared. Okay. Now, once again, if you guys want to take a screenshot of that, you are more than welcome to do so now. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next part. Okay, so I want you guys to notice that down here I have got this triangle, right? And I've labeled it my base and I've labeled it my height. But what the cool thing is, that is the exact same triangle that I used up here. All I did was flip that particular triangle on a different side, okay? So as you can see, I am using this as my base, and then my height is right here. And once again, that forms what I need, this nice perpendicular angle, right angle, 90-degree angle between my base and my height. I have to have a 90-degree angle between my base and my height. Okay, now this is also the exact same triangle, but this time I am using this as my base, and I am using this as my height. Now, because the triangle, it was another obtuse triangle and it extended out beyond my base, I had to draw my imaginary line to make them connect on both sides, but that did form my 90-degree perpendicular right angle between my base and my height. And finally, this is also the exact same triangle. Now, this is exactly like we saw it up here on the grid, but you can see it without the grid down here, and we did the exact same thing. This is what gives us our base, and this is what gives us our height. And once again, the most important thing, we have our right angle between my base and my height. Okay, most important thing. Now what I want to show you guys is all three of them put together. This is the exact same triangle, but I have given you multiple options of which ones to use. Now, for example, I have given you guys all three different bases right now. There's this line, and this line. All three of these were the original lines of the triangle, and I'm going to show you which ones you have to use depending on which base you're choosing. So if I'm choosing to use this base, well, then I have to have a perpendicular angle to that base, which here is my right angle to that base. So that means that I need to use this line for my base and my height because it forms a perpendicular angle. Now let's say I want to use this line as my base. Well, I have to have a right angle between my base and my height. So I am going to use this one because that, once again, gives me my right angle between my base and my height. So those two would go together. And then finally, obviously the last one that's left, if I chose to use this line as my base, oops, sorry guys, let me fix that. If I chose to use this line as my base, well then I have to have a perpendicular angle from that base, which would be this one. These two would go together. So it doesn't necessarily matter which one you're using as your base, as long as your base and your height are perpendicular, as long as they form that right triangle, you can use whichever one you need. It's just a matter of choosing the right one. Your base and your height have to be perpendicular to each other. If you guys want to take a grab of that screen, you may. Okay. Now I am going to go back to our Canvas lesson for today. And there's several ways we can do this. Like I said, we can see here on our weekly playlist, we are on Monday the 14th, and we can see our task for today. Our task is Unit 1, Lesson 9, area of a triangle. So that is our task. So I've got several ways I can get to this. I can go to modules and go to today's date, September the 14th. I can click on it here. That will absolutely work. I could also go to assignments and find the correct assignment for today, which we already said it was September the 14th. So I could click on that one. Or I can go to calendar, which is what I'm going to do today. And I'm going to go to today's date for the lesson, which is the 14th. And I can see I've got the two things to do for today. I've got the cool down, which we know we do at the end. And then I've also got the task for today. So for today's lesson, it says, finding the formula for the area of a triangle. For each triangle, label the side that can be used as a base and the segment showing its corresponding height. Record the measurements for the base and the height in the table. Find the area of the triangle, which is the side and the length on the grid. In the last row, write the expression that you would be using. Okay, so I will do this I'll give you an example for A. So once again, I'm going to choose for my base to be the one that's on the bottom, because that just makes sense to me. That's the one that's on the bottom. So I'm going to count that over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So then for triangle A, my base, the value is 10. So for my height, I'm going to use that line because we can see on the grid it forms my 90-degree angle between my base and my height, so I can use it. It has to be 90 degrees. And then since it's on the grid, I am just going to count up to get the value. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So for the height for triangle A, it would be 7. And then the area, of course, you would just apply the formula, which is area equals base times height divided, height. Sorry about that, guys. Sorry, guys, I don't know what happened there. I'm going to go back to calendar. There we go. So base times height divided by 2. Plug that in. We see that my my base is 10, my height is 7. So this would be 10 times 7 divided by 2. So that would be 70 divided by 2. And I know you guys can do the long division, so half of 70 is 35 units squared. So then I would put that in here, 35 units squared. Okay, and then you would do that for the rest of those. Now we have triangles that are not on the grid, and we still got to solve those. So for this one, however, you only have to choose 3. You only have to do 3. I'm going to go ahead and circle that so you guys can see it, but you only have to do 3 triangles. I don't care which ones. You can choose any 3. So I'm going to, just for an example, I'm going to choose example B. So once again, I'm going to do my formula. Area equals base times height divided by 2. Now for this particular triangle, it doesn't matter which one I'm using as a base because I have this wonderful right angle right here. So these are the same value, so I can just plug those right into my formula. So base of area equals 4 times 4 divided by 2. 4 times 4, obviously, is 16. 16 divided by 2 equals 8 units cubed. Okay, so that is the answer for B. Okay, guys, so I want you to go ahead and finish your work for today. Once again, the most important thing that we always have to remember is you have to have a perpendicular angle between your base and your height. It has to form 90 degrees. So go ahead and finish up this task and then do your cool down. Thank you guys very much, and you'll have a good day.